So let's learn how to use SQL Server Management Studio to write a query. So I'm going to go ahead and run the SQL Server Management Studio. And you could run that as administrator if you want by right mouse clicking on it. And this is going to open up SSMS, which is SQL Server Management Studio. We'll go ahead and connect to my database that I have there. You can connect to yours. And I have a bunch of databases, and these are all databases that I've downloaded and installed from the book we use in our class, which is SQL Queries for Mere Mortals. And that's a pretty good database book that we like to use. And in Chapter 4, you learn how to create a query and the structure of a query. So let's go ahead and do a sample. We're going to use this database called the Entertainment Agency Example. And we want to write a brand new query. So you click New Query. And then in this window is where you're going to write your SQL or your SQL statement. Now, one thing you need to do is make sure you are always using the right database. So you could say use and then type in the database name and put a semicolon. And that's one way to make sure you're always using the right database. Another way to do it is by coming to this drop-down box and choosing the database you want to use. But make sure you're using the right database. Now, let's say that we want to do the following. We want to go ahead and list all of the entertainers and the cities that they're based in, and then we want to sort those results by the city and the name, both in ascending order. And if I look at my database structure over here and I look at all the tables, once you know the tables and understand what all the data is inside of them, and that's important to do, you need to go and learn what is in your data and learn what tables represent what. We know that we have the entertainers table, and in that column, or the columns that we have a city and we have the stage name. So each record or each row in the entertainers table represents an entertainer, and the unique ID is the entertainer ID. So I could come over here and say select. You don't have to type in uppercase. I just like to do that. Ent city, and as we type the name, that's great. But if you notice, we could let SQL Server help us somehow. And what we could do, let's back up again and just type select space from. And if we have the right table that we want to work with, which is entertainers, and now we come up here, entertainers, and we can start typing in the name, ent city. Notice that it actually brings in the columns for us. So I can highlight, press enter, and this now helps me write the SQL statement. Ent stage, down arrow, enter. So the select statement says, what do you want to see? And if you have more than one thing you want to see, you separate them with a comma. And then you have to specify, where do you want to get that information? So we say, show us the ent city and the stage name from the entertainers table. And I could run that right now, and this will show me all of the stage names and the cities. But if you notice that the data is not sorted. So the way we sort it is we type in order by, 2 words. And then you specify how you want to sort it. Well, we said we wanted to sort it by ent city and by ent stage name. Now I could go ahead and run that one more time. And this is sorting in ascending order because that's the default. But another thing that we could do is we could come to each one of those fields and type ASC and ASC. So that now says, go show me the entertainment cities, the entertainer stage names from the entertainers table, and let's sort it by the city in ascending order and the stage name in ascending order. You didn't have to put ASC, but it is a good way to clarify. If we didn't want them in ascending order, we could have said DESC. This will now sort all of the cities in descending order, and then within each city, let's sort the stage name in ascending order. And that's why we have Woodinville Catherine, Woodinville Modern. And then if you wanted to, you could save this query. And the way you would do that is you could simply do a file and do a save query as, and you could specify the name of some descriptive name and say .sql, and that would save it for you. Usually I don't worry about those, but you could actually save all your queries out there and then click save. And this is how you write a query using SQL Server Management Studio. Let's try to do another one. Let's say that we want to go ahead and use the same database, but we want to see a unique list of engagement dates. So we want to see the engagement dates, and we don't care how many, but we want to see the engagement dates, and we want it to be unique. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe out this query, and we're going to keep using the entertainment agency example. Remember, I didn't have to put this statement here. I could just click over here. But this allows me to save that query and use it somewhere else and not even have to go choose the right database, because our SQL statement does it for us. So let's see. We want to say select the start date, and once again, let's cheat. Nicely cheat. We'll say select from, and we know that the data we want to work with is in engagements. The hardest part of database is learning where your data is. So we'll say engagements, and now we can come back here and say, start typing the column name. So we want to see all the start dates from engagements. Now, if I execute that, notice that there's going to be a lot of duplicates. In fact, let's see if they are duplicates, because let's do an order by start date, and let's do a descending order on that. And let's see what happens. So order by start date descending. Run it again, and look, we do have duplicates. There's some duplicates right there. So we want it to be distinct. So you come right here and you say, we want to say only those columns that are unique, and they call it distinct. Select distinct start date from that table and sort it by that column in descending order. Go ahead and run it, and now that's distinct. And that's how you create queries in SQL Server Management Studio. One other thing you could do, if you have to turn in information, of course you can copy and paste your query here, but if you come over here, you could click right in that box and copy. But another thing you could do is right mouse click and choose results to. And instead of doing a grid, you could send it to text. And then run it again. And now you could just copy that text, so it's not in grid format. And it puts a little column name. So then you could put your query and your results in one file. And that's how you work with SQL Server Management Studio.